my name is Ray. I am a former NICU parent, and in the photo below you can see a photo of my son Luke, who was in the NICU for about 3 weeks. He was born with a very rare chromosome condition called mosaic trisomy 22. I had the honor of being his mom for almost 14 years until he passed away in 2020. Now today, given my other role, the other hat that I wear, which is as a knowledge broker, which brings people together with lived experience with researchers so that they can create research together, I want to talk a bit today about the subject of acronyms. So when it comes to the subject of acronyms, it can be a bit of a confusing process sometimes, and I'm hoping today to at least catch you up on a few basic acronyms so you won't feel like you are just in a sea of confusing terminology when you start off as a research partner. So with that in mind, sometimes as well too, there's a lot to be said about people's human behavior just because you are in professional spaces, and albeit you are, you might be unfamiliar with some of the terms. So people just kind of don't really think about it. They just use the terms without really thinking that there might be someone in the room who might not be aware of what those terms may mean. So today we're going to try to take a look at a few, and that might help build up the conversation a little bit, but also at least it won't be entirely new to you when you come into these spaces. So to start things off, this is the CIHR. The Canadian Institutes of Health Research is the main funding body in Canada when it comes to the creation of research on a number of different subjects. They have numerous satellite organizations that work to focus on specific types of research. And the one that you will be connected to is called IDSE, which technically stands for the Child and Health Youth section of the CIHR. And so when things are starting off with research, you might be a part of the process when it comes to writing the grant. And this would be where that grant will likely go to. And an REB is definitely another one here as well, too. The REB is the Research Ethics Board. Now, people need to, on grants, kind of create some ethical intentions on how they approach research. That can ask a number of different questions, like, are you approaching enough people of both genders, from a diversity standpoint, from an inclusion standpoint, all of these approaches, and how exactly are you doing these as well too, just to make sure that these approaches are ones that create safe spaces for all of the people who participate or partner in that research as well. And the last one is peer review, which isn't so much of an acronym, but you might hear that term thrown a lot. I just wanted to make sure that that is thrown in there as well too, because it's the evaluation of scientific work done by others in the same field. I've been a peer reviewer myself. It took a little bit of time before I could get into that space, but it takes some time to read through the study. You have to evaluate it from a number of different lenses, and then they say, yep, this is one that can be published in our journal. Now, some other terms that might be thrown in here as well too are things like quantitative research. And as you can see by this slide here, it says that the process of collecting and analyzing numerical data, it can be used to find patterns and averages. These are things that might be really statistic based. That can be a lot of population health, maybe how many people are stressed, maybe like a lot of different questions that might come up, but it usually focuses on the numbers associated with it. From a qualitative lens, you're looking more at how is everybody feeling about a certain question, or basically anything that comes with any sort of non-numerical related data would fall under qualitative research. Relative risk is another one that might come up as well too, and that's measuring risk associated with a certain event compared to the risk of it happening to another group. That can come with things like talking about associations with certain types of health activities and pregnancy, like a lot of different ways that can come up as well. Statistically significant is another one worth looking at, and that is the claim that a result from data generated by testing or experimentation is likely to be connected to a specific cause. So when they look at the results from a certain amount of data, they say, yes, X is definitely attributed to the reason why happens to this particular population of people. And clinically significant, you can see a little bit more below in terms of what its purpose is and the reason behind it. Now, knowledge translation, you're going to hear it either referred to as knowledge translation or KT. KT is knowledge translation, that is activities involved in moving research from the laboratory and the research journal and the academic conference into the hands and the people of the organizations that put it to practical use. And you might even hear the phrase IKT as well. And that can be a process of partnering in research where you use a number of different organizations, that you partner with a number of different organizations or people with lived experience in terms of how you develop. And you start right from the beginning of the research process, right through the end of the research cycle. Now, knowledge mobilization is another one to take a look at here, and that is promoting and facilitating the use of research among knowledge users or people who need that knowledge. So that's how you move that information out into the world. And that can come in a number of different ways. If you look on YouTube, for example, you can look up how to tie your shoes. Now, there can be some consideration as to who that audience is for in terms of tying your shoes. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of different videos for little kids who are just approaching this concept for the first time. But if you dig a little deeper, you can actually find things like TED Talks on how to tie your shoes. And they might talk about one of two things, whether or not you can use this new type of tying to do it quicker or to create a better knot that doesn't fall apart on you very often. But now, if you think about that, is that knowledge that you are likely to put into action? Is that something that's important to you? For me, I am 43. I don't even really think about tying my shoes anymore. So that might not be the best format of knowledge mobilization for me. That might not be important information. It might be for someone else. Who knows? But these are the things that you answer in knowledge mobilization. Now, these terms are ones that you might only hear in clinical related research between blinded studies and double-blinded studies. It is basically trying to allude to the idea of who is aware of what the actual thing that a person is receiving actually is. And because it helps to eliminate some biases along the way where you might feel like you want something to work, but we all have these internal biases where we feel like, yes, it's working, but in some ways it might actually be something called a placebo effect. So there's a lot to be said about the many different types of words that you may come across in research. And while you do not need to take a test, you don't need to write an exam, have a license, or anything like that when it comes to better understanding these words. But when you hear them more often, they start to become a part of your own internal dictionary along the way. So if you feel like you want to write yourself a cheat sheet for what you've learned about in this video, that is totally fine as well too. If you just hear this enough, it just might be something that sticks with you. It depends on the type of learner that you are. But if this is something that is going to make you feel like it's a significant hurdle to jump over, definitely help researchers better understand the fact that they need to take things a little bit slower when it comes to their vocabulary. You might find that there are things within, like reading the study that as it's about to be published and they ask for your insights, it might feel like a little bit too high level in language. And if that's the case, it can be worth talking to one of the researchers and saying, can you walk through the study with me as I read it? I just need to ask questions along the way, and I have no framework or prior experience to work from with this. And I would just love to hear your thoughts and your insights so I can deliver to you the opinions that you need in the moment. I hope this helps a little bit more as you build your skill set as a research partner.